The Supreme Court just changed the rules in a unanimous 9-0 decision, and almost nobody is explaining what it could mean for people who keep a gun in their car. This isn't just another legal headline. This could affect your next traffic stop, your next road trip, or even the way police treat a locked firearm sitting in your glove box right now. And here's the part that should worry people. A lot of gun owners think they already understand the law. They think if the gun is legal, they're automatically protected. But this ruling exposed something much bigger. The law inside your home and the law inside your vehicle are not always treated the same way. And that gap can become dangerous fast. The case people are talking about connects directly to how courts now view public carry, vehicle searches, and firearm access during police encounters. The Supreme Court's modern Second Amendment rulings, especially after New York State Rifle and Pistol Association vs. Bruen in 2022 have pushed lower courts into new territory, but this latest legal move changed the conversation again. Today, we're breaking down what actually happened, why the vote was unanimous, what people are getting completely wrong online, and why carrying a gun in your car could become one of the biggest legal pressure points in America over the next few years. If you care about your rights and want the truth without the political spin, subscribe right now. A lot of people talk loudly about the Second Amendment. Very few explain what actually happens when those rights collide with real police encounters on real roads. Here's where this starts getting serious. Most Americans spend more time in their cars than anywhere except home and work. Your vehicle is part office, part storage room, part family space, and sometimes part self-defense plan. That means gun laws involving vehicles don't stay theoretical for long. They become personal very quickly. Think about how many people legally keep a firearm nearby while driving. Maybe it's in a center console. Maybe it's locked under a seat. Maybe it's inside a travel safe in the trunk. Some people carry every day because they travel late at night. Others carry because they have kids and want protection during emergencies. Some simply believe it's their constitutional right. But the law sees cars differently than homes. That's one of the biggest things viewers miss. Courts have long treated vehicles under a different legal standard because cars move. Police can stop them quickly. Evidence can disappear quickly. Danger can escalate quickly. That legal difference has existed for decades, but modern gun rulings are now colliding with it. The Supreme Court's recent decisions have strengthened Second Amendment protections in major ways. In Bruen, the court ruled 6-3 that New York's strict concealed carry system violated the Constitution. The court said ordinary citizens have a right to carry firearms in public for self-defense. That ruling shocked many states overnight. But here's what many headlines skipped. Bruen expanded rights, but it also created confusion. Lower courts, police departments, and state lawmakers all started asking the same question. Where exactly do those protections stop once a firearm enters a vehicle during a police stop or investigation? That's where newer rulings and unanimous Supreme Court decisions started reshaping the legal landscape. A 9-0 ruling gets attention because it means every justice agreed on at least part of the legal principle involved. And when all 9 justices agree in today's political climate, people notice immediately. Now, to be clear, the Supreme Court did not say police can ignore the Constitution during traffic stops. They also did not say every gun owner automatically wins every vehicle case. That's the mistake spreading online right now. The real issue is narrower, but also more important than people realize. The court continues to recognize officer safety during vehicle stops as a major legal concern. Think of it like this. A traffic stop is one of the most unpredictable moments for both police and civilians. Officers don't know who they're walking toward. Drivers don't know what the officer believes or suspects. Stress rises fast. That's why courts have repeatedly allowed limited police actions during traffic stops that would feel much harder to justify inside someone's home. And once firearms enter the picture, courts often give officers more room to secure the scene temporarily while determining whether danger exists. Here's where people get tripped up. Many viewers hear Second Amendment protection and assume that means unlimited freedom during a stop. But constitutional rights often operate differently depending on location and context. Free speech works differently inside a courtroom than on a sidewalk. Search rules work differently in cars than houses. The same thing is happening with firearm law. The right may exist, but how officers respond during a roadside encounter still matters enormously. And that gap between legal ownership and real-world interaction is exactly where many problems begin. If you think police should clearly explain firearm rules during traffic stops instead of leaving people confused, hit like and tell me your state in the comments. The differences between states right now are massive, and that confusion is becoming one of the biggest risks for lawful gun owners. Here's what this means for you. If you're a new gun owner, the biggest mistake is assuming every state treats vehicle carry the same way. They don't. Some states require immediate disclosure if you're armed. Others don't. Some allow loaded firearms in vehicles freely. Others require special permits or storage rules. If you carry concealed regularly, you need to understand something even more important. The legality of your firearm doesn't automatically control the outcome of a police encounter. Your behavior during the stop matters. The officer's perception matters. State law matters. And sometimes the exact location of the firearm matters too. And if you keep a firearm at home but occasionally transport it in your car, you may face risks you never expected. Crossing a state line, stopping in the wrong jurisdiction, or misunderstanding a local carry rule can suddenly create serious legal problems even if your original intent was completely lawful. This is like driving through different school zones with different speed limits every few miles. You may believe you're following the same safe behavior the entire time, but the legal rules can shift underneath you without warning. That's exactly why so many people feel confused right now. Now let's talk about a real-world scenario that happens every day. Imagine you're driving home late at night. You legally carry a handgun inside your vehicle. You get stopped for a broken taillight. The officer walks up and asks a simple question. Do you have any weapons in the car? That moment matters more than most people realize. Your tone matters. Your movements matter. Your state's disclosure laws matter. And your understanding of your rights matters. Some people panic and start reaching toward the firearm. That's incredibly risky. Others lie because they fear escalation. That can also create legal problems. The safer approach is calm communication and minimal movement. Think of it like dealing with airport security. Sudden surprises raise tension immediately. Clear communication lowers tension. The goal is reducing confusion, not escalating fear on either side of the encounter. And here's something many viewers never hear. Even lawful gun owners sometimes get temporarily disarmed during a stop for officer safety. Courts have often allowed temporary control of a firearm during an active encounter if officers reasonably believe safety concerns exist. Temporary control does not automatically mean permanent confiscation. But this is where the legal battle keeps growing. Gun rights groups argue that some departments go too far. They say temporary safety measures sometimes become fishing expeditions for unrelated investigations. On the other side, law enforcement groups argue roadside encounters can become deadly within seconds. That tension is shaping the next generation of Second Amendment lawsuits right now. Not just whether you can own a gun, but how government officials interact with armed citizens during fast-moving public encounters. That distinction matters a lot more than flashy headlines suggest. Here's another scenario. A family is traveling across multiple states for vacation. One spouse legally carries in their home state. They assume reciprocity applies everywhere, meaning one permit automatically works across state lines. But then they stop in a state with stricter transportation laws. Suddenly, the exact placement of the firearm matters. Is it loaded? Locked? Accessible from the driver's seat? Stored separately from ammunition? These details can become critical fast. What felt legal at breakfast can become questionable by dinner simply because state borders changed. This is where the next fight starts. Many Americans believe national carry standards should become more uniform after recent Supreme Court rulings. Others argue states should still control their own public safety rules. That clash is building pressure in legislatures and lower courts across the country. And don't miss the deeper issue here. A lot of these cases aren't about criminals. They involve ordinary people trying to navigate confusing legal systems while traveling, commuting, or protecting their families. That's why these rulings hit emotionally for so many viewers. Now let's look at another everyday situation. Imagine a parent picking up their child from school while legally storing a firearm in the vehicle. Then they remember the school parking lot may fall under separate firearm restrictions depending on local and federal law. Suddenly anxiety kicks in. This is why legal awareness matters so much more now than it did even 10 years ago. The average gun owner today faces a complicated patchwork of federal law, state law, local policy, school zone restrictions, permit rules, and law enforcement discretion all at the same time. And the Supreme Court's recent rulings have not simplified everything. In some ways, they've intensified the conflict because courts are now reassessing older gun restrictions under new constitutional standards. Some laws are being struck down, others are surviving challenges. The map keeps changing. Here's where it gets bigger. Lower courts across America are now trying to interpret what modern Second Amendment protections actually mean in practice. That includes public transit, parking lots, rideshare vehicles, glove compartments, and roadside searches. These aren't fringe issues anymore. Think of it like updating an old operating system. The Constitution hasn't changed, but courts are reinterpreting how old legal doctrines apply in modern life. And during that transition period, confusion spreads fast, because different courts sometimes reach different conclusions. That's why you're seeing so many lawsuits right now involving concealed carry permits, magazine restrictions, sensitive locations, vehicle carry rules, and firearm transportation. The legal system is basically trying to redraw boundaries that remained mostly stable for decades before Bruin. And here's what most people are missing. A unanimous Supreme Court ruling sends a powerful signal beyond the exact facts of one case. It tells lower courts there may be broader agreement forming around certain constitutional principles. Judges pay attention to that very carefully. But agreement on one narrow issue does not mean agreement on every future gun case. That's another huge misunderstanding online. People often hear 9-0 and assume the court just solved the entire debate forever. That's not how constitutional law works. The court may agree on procedure while disagreeing on broader philosophy. Justices may agree police exceeded authority in one situation while still supporting strong enforcement powers in another. That nuance matters because future cases build on these decisions piece by piece over time. This is also why responsible gun owners should avoid treating every viral headline like a final answer. Real law develops slowly. Appeals happen. Lower courts interpret rulings differently. State lawmakers react politically. Police departments update policies unevenly. The process keeps moving after the headlines fade. If you want clear breakdowns as these vehicle carry cases keep developing, make sure you're subscribed. The next few months could bring major state-level reactions, and many people won't realize the rules changed until after they're already caught in a bad situation. Now let's tackle one of the biggest myths spreading online right now. Myth number 1 says, the Supreme Court ruled police can never question armed drivers anymore. That is completely false. Courts still recognize officer safety concerns during traffic stops. Questions can still happen legally. The real issue is whether police actions remain reasonable under the Constitution during the encounter. Reasonable is one of those legal words people hate because it sounds vague. But think of it like workplace rules. A boss may inspect something related to safety but not abuse that power endlessly. Myth number 2 says, if you legally own the gun, you can store it any way you want in your car. Again, false. State transportation laws still matter. Permit rules still matter. Sensitive location laws still matter. Legal ownership alone does not erase every regulation tied to carrying or transporting firearms. Myth number 3 says, the Supreme Court eliminated all state gun restrictions. Absolutely not. States still retain major authority over firearm regulations. The real constitutional battle is over where those limits cross the line and violate protected rights. That debate is still unfolding right now, and this confusion creates serious emotional stress for ordinary people. Many Americans aren't trying to break laws. They're trying to stay safe, protect family members, and avoid becoming victims. But fear and confusion during police encounters can quickly make situations worse. That's why calm preparation matters. Knowing your state rules matters. Understanding reciprocity matters. Understanding disclosure laws matters. And understanding that constitutional rights still operate inside real-world encounters matters most of all. Think of it like driving during heavy rain. You may legally own the vehicle and know how to drive, but conditions still require caution, awareness, and smart decisions. The same principle applies during armed interactions with law enforcement. Now, let's talk about what could happen next, because this story is far from over. Several states are already facing lawsuits challenging firearm transportation restrictions after Bruin. Some judges are applying stricter constitutional review than before. Others remain cautious and uphold older regulations. That split increases the chance of future Supreme Court involvement. When lower courts disagree sharply, the Supreme Court often steps in eventually to create a national standard. That's one reason legal experts believe vehicle carry cases may become even more important over the next few years. And don't ignore the political side either. State legislatures are reacting aggressively in both directions. Some states are expanding constitutional carry laws. Others are tightening rules around public carry locations and firearm storage requirements. The legal map is shifting constantly. Law enforcement agencies are also adapting. Departments across the country are revising training procedures involving armed civilians during traffic stops. Officers are being taught new standards while also balancing safety concerns. That transition period creates uncertainty for everyone involved. Here's where the emotional reality kicks in. Most roadside encounters start small. A broken tail light, rolling through a stop sign, speeding slightly above the limit. Nobody expects a constitutional issue to emerge from a routine stop, but sometimes that's exactly what happens. And when stress rises, people make mistakes. Drivers reach suddenly. Officers assume danger. Communication breaks down. That's why understanding these rules before an encounter matters so much more than trying to figure them out in the moment. Now think about younger gun owners entering this landscape for the first time. Many learned firearm basics from social media clips instead of formal legal education. They hear slogans online that sound confident but leave out critical details about transportation laws and police interactions. That's dangerous because confidence without understanding can backfire badly. A viral post may say, "You never have to answer anything." Another may say, "Police can do whatever they want." Both extremes miss the real legal complexity sitting in the middle. And the middle ground matters because that's where most Americans actually live. Responsible people want to exercise rights while also avoiding unnecessary escalation. They want clarity, consistency, and fair treatment under the law. Here's another overlooked issue. Insurance companies, employers, schools, apartment complexes, and private businesses all create additional layers of rules around firearms and vehicles. Constitutional rights matter deeply, but private property rules and workplace policies still affect everyday life too. This is like carrying a phone. You may legally own it, but different places still set rules about how and where it can be used. The same reality exists with firearms, except the legal stakes become much higher because criminal penalties can enter the picture quickly. And remember this point because it matters. The Supreme Court often moves slowly and carefully. A unanimous decision may look dramatic online, but courts usually decide narrower questions than social media influencers claim. That's why reading beyond headlines matters so much. The part nobody is telling you is this. Many future gun cases won't revolve around whether the Second Amendment exists. That debate is largely settled. The coming battles are about boundaries, enforcement, procedures, and public interaction, especially inside vehicles. Cars have become the pressure point because they combine mobility, public space, police authority, and self-defense concerns all at once. That combination creates legal friction almost everywhere in America right now. And if you think this only affects concealed carriers, think again. Even transporting an unloaded firearm to a range or hunting trip can raise legal questions depending on local law and travel routes. Ordinary activities can become legally complicated surprisingly fast. That's why careful planning matters. Understanding state reciprocity before travel matters. Secure storage matters. Calm communication matters. None of those things weaken constitutional rights. They help protect you while exercising them responsibly. Now let's address another bad online take. Some people claim courts only care about police power and never care about citizens. That's not true either. Modern Supreme Court rulings have absolutely expanded firearm protections in meaningful ways. Bruin alone transformed carry laws nationwide. But rights and responsibilities often move together in practice. Courts may recognize a right while still allowing limited safety procedures during dangerous or uncertain encounters. That balance frustrates both extremes because neither side gets everything it wants completely. And honestly, that's part of why these cases become emotionally charged. People aren't just arguing about legal doctrine. They're arguing about trust. Trust in government, trust in police, trust in armed citizens, trust in institutions generally. That emotional layer shapes every debate now. You can feel it whenever these rulings hit the news cycle. One side celebrates freedom, another fears danger. Meanwhile, millions of ordinary Americans are just trying to understand what the rules actually are before their next commute home from work. Here's what responsible viewers should focus on right now. Don't rely on rumors. Don't rely on one viral clip. Don't assume your state matches another state. And don't assume constitutional rights eliminate all procedural realities during public encounters. The smartest approach is staying informed continuously because these rules are evolving in real time. Court rulings change standards. Legislatures react. Appeals reshape outcomes. Police departments revise procedures. And every layer affects how laws operate in everyday life. This is where the next generation of legal conflict is building. Not just ownership, but transportation. Not just carrying, but interaction. Not just rights on paper, but rights during stressful human moments involving uncertainty and fear. And those moments matter because they affect real families. Parents driving children home, workers commuting late at night, travelers crossing state lines, veterans carrying legally, new gun owners trying to follow the law carefully. These aren't abstract political talking points. These are real people. That's why understanding the difference between internet myths and actual legal reality is so important today. One can keep you informed. The other can put you in unnecessary danger very quickly. Now let's bring this all together. The Supreme Court's unanimous rulings and broader Second Amendment decisions are reshaping how courts view firearms in public life. But they are not creating a world without rules. They are creating a new legal balancing test that lower courts are still figuring out. The biggest mistake people make is assuming a headline tells the whole story. It doesn't. A constitutional victory in one area can still leave practical questions unresolved in another. That's especially true during vehicle encounters where safety concerns and rights collide directly. The second big takeaway is personal responsibility. Understanding your own state's laws, disclosure requirements, reciprocity rules, and transportation standards matters more now than ever before. Ignorance can become expensive fast, even for otherwise lawful citizens. And the third takeaway is emotional control. Most roadside encounters become safer when confusion stays low. Calm communication, legal awareness, and careful preparation reduce risk dramatically for everyone involved. Panic rarely helps anyone in those moments. Going forward, expect more lawsuits involving vehicles, public carry, and police interaction. Expect more states to test new restrictions and new protections. And expect the Supreme Court to keep shaping this area gradually, case by case, over time. Because this debate is bigger than politics now. It touches daily life. It touches personal safety. It touches how Americans understand freedom and responsibility at the same time. That's why these rulings create such powerful reactions across the country. And whether you support stronger gun rights, stricter regulation, or something in the middle, one reality remains true for everyone. The law only helps you if you understand how it works in the real world before a stressful moment happens. Stay alert. Stay informed. And don't let viral headlines replace actual understanding. Subscribe if you want clear breakdowns without the noise, and comment below with the biggest firearm law confusion you see in your state right now. The more informed people become, the safer and stronger these conversations get for everybody.